I think we can start, right? Yes. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our new roundtable. My name is Marinês and I'm from Nova Debate. This is a special roundtable because this one results from a collaboration between Nova Debate and Nova Skills Association. So in name of Nova Debate, I would like to thank Nova Skills Association for the invitation to be part of this amazing project. For those of you that are watching us online, well, thank you so much for being present. I think we will have a lovely time.
So I'm João. I will, in collaboration with Maria Inesa, we will be moderating this important and modern and significant debate. I think it is important when we talk about soft skills and such a modern and such a current term. I think it's important in a time of ever-greating importance of soft skills, both in professional and in personal life. I think this roundtable is of the utmost importance. It's a great opportunity to debate this topic. A worker of today's global world, as you are a part of, is not a passive actor anymore. It requires proactivity. It requires capacity to be active. A number of skills is paramount in this global world, which range from time management, negotiation skills, teamwork capabilities, and I think that creates a more productive, more interested in ultimately a worker, an image of a worker which is closer to today's society needs. I would like now to introduce our invited speakers for this afternoon. I would start with Mafalda Rebordão. Mafalda has a bachelor degrees in economics at Nova SBE. Mafalda has a master's degree in international management. Currently, Mafalda is working in Dublin, in the EU headquarters at Google, as an account manager. Mafalda also worked previously both as a consultant in firms such as ABB or Nestle, and as a teaching assistant for Nova, teaching undergraduate courses of calculus for both for management and economics students. Tiago Bernardino has a bachelor degrees in economics at Nova SBE. Tiago has a master's degree in economics also for Nova SBE. Tiago is currently a first-year PhD student at Stockholm University. Tiago previously worked as a research analyst for Nova SBE and as a teaching assistant, both in calculus and in principles of management. As an analyst, as a research analyst, his research focuses on the assessment of social and economic values of the Portuguese cultural heritage and topics related to economics for policy or public finances. Vitorino frequented during his first year an integrated master's in biological engineering at Instituto Superior Técnico. Vitorino has a bachelor's degrees at Nova SBE. He has a master's in management also for Nova SBE, and he was a first-year student of economics and finance PhD at Nova. Currently, Vitorino is working as a first secretary in the Portuguese Permanent Mission at the UN. He also worked previously as a diplomat and as acting chief economist of the finance ministry in Portugal under Mário Centeno and João Leão leadership. Vitorino also taught both undergraduate and master courses as a teaching assistant. Last but not least, we have Eduardo, who has a bachelor bachelor degrees in management at Nova SBE and a master's degree in international management with a major in marketing. Eduardo is currently working as a global account manager at Amazon Web Services in London. Eduardo has spent a significant stint with Amazon with various positions in various work fields and branches. Eduardo is also an advisor and a consultant for Sky UK. And it was also a teaching assistant at Nova SBE, teaching, for example, management accounting.
I can go. We will start with your present professional occupation. I will start by doing a question that is for the four of you, and is the following. Which soft skills do you value the most in your current professional life? And in those soft skills, do you value a more important one? Do you have a more important one soft skill? I think Mafalda can go.
Okay, so hello everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's always good to be back. For those of you who are watching us, it's really a pleasure to share the virtual stage with three amazing human beings that we have in this call. It's an honor, really. So answering your question, Marinês, and thank you for asking. It's actually interesting to reflect about this question, because I do believe that the soft skills that made me pivot my career up until now are the ones right now that are helping me to scale my career and evolve in my learning curve. So I would say there are 3 to 4 skills that I really value that I think are really crucial. The first one being resilience. I think that for me is this capacity to sail even when the sea seems impossible to sail. So learning always from the challenges you have, and also learning how to rest and not to quit was really important for me, because for those of you who know me, I tend to drive a lot of projects at the same time. I have a lot of projects in my pipeline all the time. So it was really important to be resilient when everything seemed really challenging for me. So the first one is for sure resilience. Then the second one, I think, is curiosity. And for me, curiosity is this ability of developing humbleness to understand that we don't know everything. We just know a small, tiny bit. And we need to continuously work on ourselves and developing ourselves, because we are really the best project we can ever work on. And keep on learning from everyone and every experience, every person we meet, every single person in this call. I think it's really important to keep on learning. And finally, I think the third one, and this is a recent one, is openness to feedback. Especially at Google, I've learned that feedback is a gift. And the feedback I got from the people I met, my managers, my professors, my peers, the companies I was part of, was really important to understand how I could take my career to the next level and find the courage to grow from this feedback and to be highly coachable, because feedback can be really hard sometimes, but I think it's the best way to evolve and learn. So I think these were the 3 soft skills that helped me build my career up until now.
Okay, thank you, Mafalda. What about you, Tiago?
So first of all, let me thank Nova Skills Association and Nova Debate for the invitation, for the organization of this. So I'm kind of very special. I know that you already presented all the other 3, but I'm still a student, kind of. Although I like to think in my life as a PhD student, as a more professional, kind of in a special job that I kind of have, and so it was kind of. And very often it's very common to associate a research life. It's much more based on hard skills, right? And I guess you cannot be a good researcher without good hard skills, but I guess we can also talk about that later on. But the thing in the soft skills that so the soft skills that I value the most now especially in this first year, which is a very it's very demanding first year, where we have, sometimes I describe my life as a continuum of problem sets, because I'm always solving problem sets, and I kind of manage my life according to the deadlines of the problem sets. And also do with the exams. And so for the first time, I think, and I did a lot of course, as all Nova students do nowadays, with kind of projects where you work in group. But it's like, for the first time here, I kind of feel that I'm really working in group and learning in group. So when we solve problem sets together here on the whiteboard on our offices, we kind of, with the discussions and with the different backgrounds that each of us have, although it's economics, but kind of we learn economics from different professors with different perspectives. And so I have to say that teamwork is the first soft skill that I will that I kind of value nowadays in this year. And the second one, it's kind of work ethics, in the sense that this thing that I have a lot of things always going on, and that is important to have a good plan of my life. and the good self-supporting in the certain sense to do this. And well, the third one, which I guess it's very understandable why it's associated to a researcher kind of life, which is critical thinking, in the sense that of course, if you take this path of your life, you really need you to want to learn all your life. And so that desire to learn, let's put things like that. And of course, being able to solve all these small problems, because the goal of a researcher is to solve a problem and to answer a question, a research question. So this would be the three soft skills that I think nowadays I would value more. I don't know, because this is again very special year. I'm still getting into the research frontier, as we like to call, and then actually writing scientific articles. But nowadays, this is basically the ones that I would pinpoint now.
Thank you, Tiago. Vitorino, what do you think?
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to echo my colleagues and thank Nova Skills Association and Nova Debate Club for the invitation. I think this is a great initiative. And it's always a pleasure to discuss these topics with these friends and colleagues. So regarding soft skills, this is always a very complex exercise to try to highlight 2, 3, 4 soft skills, but I think I managed to select 3. So the first of all is communication. Communication in different aspects. So a lot of my work is based on verbal, nonverbal, writing communication. So you need to develop a strong sense of, engaging with messages with different countries, with different actors. So there's a lot to do there. There's a lot to do also with multilingualism. So learning, or at least understanding different cultures, different languages, and the more you know about others, the best it is for you to communicate a message. So that's the first one, I would say. The second one would be probably everything that is related to negotiation. So problem solving, conflict resolution, critical thinking, everything that needs to that you need to engage and solve the most stressful problems in the most stressful circumstances that you can imagine. So a lot of what I do every day is about negotiation. Just to give you some examples, so on a weekly basis, I would need to be in maybe 10 to 15 different meetings on different topics, and you need to train a lot for reaching compromises, and that's pretty much the meaning of diplomacy. The third one would be, I would like to say, leadership and patience, in the sense that there's too many of us are in the diplomatic career, or here specifically at the UN, with the goal to have an impact. We want to make a change, a positive change in the world, so we want to be leaders with a purpose and make it happen. But everything needs to be dealt with a lot of patience. So leadership comes with patience, because it's not easy to make a change in all these different topics, with all these inspiring talks that we hear, that we can ourselves make. So if I would recommend anything at all for anybody looking to work at the UN level or with the diplomatic career, it would be to develop this sense of patience, which is important as well.
Okay, thank you, Vitorino. Eduardo.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone that is watching us at home is having a good day so far, and I'll just like to echo what Mafalda, Vitorino, and Tiago said. It's a huge pleasure to be here with you today, and I'm very thankful for both organizations to collaborate on this event and for the invite. So thank you up front. Yeah, as to your question, it's funny because I feel I have a very similar list to Vitorino. So I feel, he stole my notebook and he has the same top as I do, or very similar. But I'll definitely highlight communication skills as my, the most important soft skill in my day to day. I think, if I could just give you a few examples, I'll say that, when you are articulating ideas to senior leadership, or you have to escalate things, it's very important for you to be able to, in a very short and straight to the point manner, tell exactly what you want. If it's a highlight, is it a blocker? Is it a challenge? Is it an ask? Be able to articulate very succinctly and very straight to the point what is that you want, because those people have very short span of attention. And also touching a bit on the kind of multicultural aspect, understanding, what is good communication? Because I think different companies have different standards. Like, I'll give you the example of Amazon. It's a very data-driven company, so I feel I have to have data points in all my sentences. Whereas I think, some other companies have a different approach, and I don't know, they might value more the aspirational side of your speech. So I feel different companies have different standards for what is it effective communication, and also different cultures, would consider effective communication to be different things. I definitely felt I was a good communicator at Nova, and then when I got to the workforce, I had to relearn what it meant to be a good communicator at Amazon. For example, I think, us Portuguese people tend to be write a lot and expend a lot of our thoughts. When I think, for example, working in the UK country, in the tech company, it's much more like straight to the point, short format, have an impact with fewer words. So I definitely feel the ability to be able to articulate my thoughts and communicate was definitely a very important skill. Secondly, I will not say negotiation, but it's in that line of thought. I would say the ability to influence people and to influence others. So, almost like persuasion, because I feel in my day-to-day job, I work a lot with other teams, and I feel the way companies are structured nowadays, it's less hierarchical, so you have a bit more of an horizontal structure. So you are very interdependent on other teams and other people, that you need them to do certain things, but they don't report to you, or there's not a hierarchy there. So I think it's very important for you to be able to influence people to do what you want or what you need and what the company needs, in a way that you almost make them feel part of an extended team and they are working with you towards the same goal. So I think that's really an art, and that can be with people in your company or your customers, but having that ability to influence others in a way they feel part of the bigger vision is very, very important, and it's not easy whatsoever. So I feel that, that ability to deliver through others and make others act in a way that is favorable to you is definitely something that I find very important every day in all roles, because of that interdependency between teams and people. And then thirdly, I would say problem solving. Problem solving in the sense that I think I didn't live in a world in which you'll hear that this a lot about, bring solutions, not problems. So it's almost the mindset that you use to, the mindset you use to face challenges, and the mindset you have in terms of how you deal with, with problems. If you look at them as an opportunity to grow, and as an opportunity to, do something bigger and come up with something new and work around them, I think that will be a strength to you, but it will be a strength to the others that work with you and the way you'll be perceived by others. I think having the ability to look at problems not as a problem, but has an opportunity to, to grow from there or do something innovative is definitely important. I think, looking at the problem and thinking immediately about the solution is something that is very valued, at least in my world nowadays. So that will be my third.
Thank you.
So I would now would like to talk about a bit of your present professional occupations. More specifically, you all have very similar academic degrees and typically you selected similar programs between yourselves, but you hold nowadays totally different professions. There are a vast set of professions that you hold currently. So maybe I would start with Vitorino. Vitorino, what made you choose the job position you hold currently?
That's probably one of the most difficult questions I've been asked, but I'd say that I think there's this. I mean, sorry, I'm taking some time to digest my own brainstorming, but I would say it's a bit of this feeling of doing something with an impact, of course, and I think that all of us here want that in their professions. But the critical thing was to think about whether I would do it with the public sector, with the private sector, whether I would be a consultant, a banker, a trainee in a company. I thought about the different, lots of different, ways out of the university. I applied actually to different, positions in different areas. And actually, what I felt about the diplomatic career was that this was a means to represent my own country, which for me was important, to be able to, to defend specific positions that are larger than myself, and stand for some type of causes and initiatives that are larger than my own personal ambitions, and that was important. And for specifically while working here at the UN, it's all about having these very multicultural experience. So we work with 193 countries. So I think there's nowhere in the world I could engage with so many countries from all parts of the world. It's about finding consensus to the world's most pressing issues, which is more than anything I could aspire in my day-to-day life. And of course, it's complicated, but it's also feeling that you can try to solve some of these challenges is something that makes me wake up in the morning with a lot of enthusiasm, and I think that's pretty much what I could ask for in my life.
Thank you. I would now ask Mafalda. Mafalda, why did you choose this position, and why did you choose Google? What characteristics in Google do you find most attractive?
Mm-hmm. So I tend to agree with Vitorino. This is a really tough question, but I think that my answer to this question, in my opinion, and especially for all those of you who are listening to us and probably are asking exactly the same question, my answer is experience. So I think I literally took myself out there. When I was studying, I talked to people. I asked a lot of questions. I was part of clubs at Nova. I actually traveled to London by myself to meet alumni from Nova, just to understand what they were doing and how were the companies they were working for. I went to every networking event. I organized talks with people just like this one. I organized talks with people from different companies, different organizations in different countries. I did 3 different internships in different industries, and I was an ambassador for 3 different organizations. And I actually remember talking with Eduardo about the future of my career. So, and also Vitorino was actually my teaching assistant as well. So these kind of people and their path inspired me to reflect about my own path and the story I wanted to write myself. And all this allowed me to get insights and actually an inside view about the job market, about the companies, their cultures, about the day-to-day of the different professionals. And during this ride, I learned how to prioritize all these things. So, meaning we will not find everything, our dream job, as we like to put it, in one company. So we need to understand what is more important for us in our day-to-day. Is it the role? Is it the exposure to people from different cultures, as Vitorino was saying? Is it the mission of the company? Is it the impact you have in the org or in the country? What is it that is most important for you? It doesn't matter if it's the money, the impact, everything's fine. You just need to understand what's important for you and go after it. And I think the 4 of us, we are actually the live example of people who have the same background and decided to prioritize different things in life. And when we get to know ourselves better and we do this exercise by experience, we are able to find what is most relevant for us in our career. For me, it's for sure people and culture. And I love people and I love the culture of the company I work for, that it's Google. And I do have this mindset. I wanted to find a place with this mindset of not of net growth, but of net worth. So really about finding people who could push me every day to do more, and who pushed me to get out of my comfort zone. And Google is special, and I think I'm quite biased here, but I worked in different companies before. And when I did my internship at Google in 2019, I found this company really special because of its culture. It's a culture of constant growth mindset. So people give you a lot of feedback and give you opportunities to evolve. I don't know if you know, but we have 20% of our time allocated to projects we really love. And I think we'll have the opportunity to talk about it in a few minutes. But for me, it's really the culture of the company is to be aligned with the mission. And that's why I ended up working for the large customers team at Google. I applied this position after my internship. So I really think that the answer to your question, Jean, is experience. When you experience a lot of different things, you can understand what you love better, and you can also get to know yourself better. And I think this helps you making this choice.
Okay. Question is for Tiago. Tiago, a bit unlike your colleagues, you chose a more academic, more research-based career path. You are not in a not so practical field. You are more in a theoretical field. What made you choose that? What made you choose that field? What was the main event, so to say, that really turned on the light about that career path in specific?
Okay, thanks, John, for the question. And I was really identified with the thing that Mafalda said, which is experience. And I was really able to identify that moment that you right now asked, that kind of made me understand that I needed to take this path in a certain sense. And actually, I was now thinking kind of in my path. So in like what you, when you have someone asking what you want to do when you are an adult, right? This type of question. I was thinking the type of which professions I wanted to be when I was, and I remember wanted to be a train driver. And then when I was in the end of primary school, I think it was a dentist. And then when I was 12, 13 years old, and we were learning how to write a news piece or this type of things, I want to be a journalist. And then I choose economics. And then I end up here in a PhD at Stockholm doing research. And that moment, that kind of, I realized, so when in the end of my bachelor, when I applied to be teaching assistant at Nova, and it was like in I don't want to be made this as a huge moment, but in the end of my first class in that I really end up that class, and the thought was, well, this was really amazing. I really enjoyed this, and it was kind of when you discover the job that you want to do for your life, or at least for the next years. I don't know if the Tiago with 30 years old or 40 years old will want to still be a teacher and a researcher, and that's also very fine. I really think on that. But for now, I kind of thought, well, in the medium run. So when I'm 30 years old, I want to have an academic position in a university, teaching and researching, and kind of then you just need to discover what you need to do to follow this path, kind of solving your life as backward induction, kind of. Sorry for being nerd here. But kind of of course, the path to achieve that goal is also very important. So don't take out weight from that path. But so kind of it was all this combination of all these experiences that made me choose this research path that starts usually with a PhD.
Thank you. Last but not least, Eduardo, why did you choose Amazon London? Was there a specific reason to choose that company in that position?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I think Mafalda said something that I'll just like to echo, which was around, especially because the title of the event has to do with graduation. I don't want anyone feeling the pressure that you need to leave Nova and picking your dream job or knowing exactly what you want to do after Nova, right? So I think, career, when I talk about careers, we talk about this monster that will develop over 50 years of your lifetime, right? So it's not on you to, after doing a master's or bachelor's, to know exactly what you want to do. And in careers take time to develop, and you learn a lot, like we've always said, with experience throughout your years. So just I want to preface anything I'm about to say with, I don't think anyone here in this panel is already where they want to be. We are still young, we still have a lot we want to conquer. So it's what my father said about it, choosing where you want to start and what will fast track you to get where you want to be. So, and I think for me, it was a lot about kind of ruling out options. So kind of, not this, and getting there. So for me, I grew up in Portugal, and in high school I did the science and technology track, and then I thought I was going to be a dentist, just like Tiago. So that's that's something in common we have. So I thought I was going to be a dentist until I was 18, and at the end of the day I ended up switching and decided to apply for management and Nova as my first option instead of medicine. And I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it. I got into Nova. I absolutely loved it. I know I was in the right place. I was very fortunate that fate kind of worked out for me in that moment. And then, but then when I, later on when I was applying for jobs after my master's, I knew I wanted to combine kind of technology and that kind of what I had studied early on in my life with what I had just learned, around management and economics. So I found that working for a tech company and working close to technology and innovation would allow me to kind of tie both worlds in a way. And then the second thing is I learned throughout the different experiences I had at Nova and when I did my exchange abroad that I wanted to live outside of Portugal. So I really thought that pushing myself out of my comfort zone and living abroad would literally fast forward my development by 10 times or more. So I wanted to go abroad. So I applied to tech companies out of Portugal. So that was kind of the two criteria I used. So tech companies out of Portugal, and then I ended up interviewing for a lot of them, and got offers from a lot of them. But what made me choose Amazon was actually my on-site interview. So the day I went to, and I started in Madrid, just by the way, not London. So I moved twice. But when I went to the Madrid office and I met the people there and I did a full kind of assessment center day, I just, something felt right. It just ticked for me. Something in your, my intuition just told me, I feel good here. I feel happy. I like the people I've met. I see myself working here. I'll talk a little about our kind of leadership principles in a bit, but there was a very strong culture, and I felt that everyone I encountered during that day had something very strong in common, and I felt that I was like them in a way. So I just, something ticked for me, and I felt that that company allowed me to, would provide me growth opportunities. It would allow me to do different things. And I could see myself doing a lot of different things within Amazon. I think the good thing about the company is that we have different businesses like, cloud and retail and advertisement and music and Prime Video. So I felt I could be a lot of different Eduardos within one company, and that I could play on my strengths. And so basically it was that combination. It was the fact that I knew I wanted a tech company, the fact I knew I wanted to work abroad, and then the fact that I loved the people I met on the day. And so that assessment day was crucial because something, within me just ticked. And then was the fact I realized I had opportunity to grow, and that was what I was valuing at the time. I was valuing opportunity to growth and opportunity to progress quickly in my career and being challenged. But I think, like Mafalda said earlier, it can be different things for you. It can be money. I don't see anything wrong with you saying, I want to work for the company that pays the most. Like that's fine. You know what I mean? So I think there are different criteria you can apply and different things that can serve you in different points of your life. I think careers are not linear. So I think, different places will give you different things. And I think ultimately is a question of trade-off. And I think trade-off is a very economic concept. So I like to use it quite a lot because I feel it's, I feel when you're kind of, maximizing your career is always at the expense of something. So I think I always like to think about the concept of trade-off. So am I going for a job that pays me a lot and gives me work-life balance, but then maybe I might not love so much the role, or whatever are the trade-offs you have at hand. But I definitely think you will not get everything in just one job. So you need to kind of understand what are you valuing at that particular moment in your career?
Thank you, Eduardo. Mafalda, you're working at Google right now, and you were also a TA of calculus at Nova SBE. And my question to you is, do you believe that there is a major correlation between the soft skills needed to work at Google and the soft skills needed to work as a TA?
That's actually good you're bringing the concept of correlation, because it's actually pretty aligned with my classes of calculus. Thank you for the question, Marinas. I think, no, I'm 100% sure there is this strong correlation between these two experiences that I had. Teaching at Nova, I have to say, was one of the best experiences of my life. It made me fall in love with education, practice my sense of humor, and understand how important it is to being able to measure the impact of my job, like many of these amazing people in the panel mentioned. I think it's really important for me to see the impact I have in other people in my day-to-day. Education is actually still super present in one of the projects that I lead at Google, that it's called I Am Remarkable. I Am Remarkable is a workshop to help underrepresented groups from universities, companies, corporations to develop the skills to feel comfortable in their own skin and to also own their stories. And to do this, that we are also empowering you to do, that is to write your story no matter what, following your own dreams and not the dreams of your peers. But answering your question here, I learned a lot about something that was mentioned already, that is effective communication, and also entertainment, of course, because as some of you might know, this is not the most popular course at Nova SBE, so we need to introduce a bit of humor to make it effective. But effective communication, I think, is extremely important in every single role. And I think Eduardo mentioned this, because you might have brilliant ideas, but if you're not able to communicate them in the right way, in the proper way, in an effective way, meaning people understand exactly your perspective and they incorporate your perspective, you'll not be able to grow and to prototype your ideas. So in particular in companies, and especially in tech companies like Google, they're looking for people that are not afraid of getting out of their comfort zone and not afraid of growing. And I think this kinds of experiences like teaching or any other experience that you might have show that when faced with a challenge, you have this capacity to go out there and to make it happen, even when your students think you are too young to teach calculus. That was actually my case in the first day. Plus, I think I learned the power of something that I value a lot in my life, that is contagious energy and empathy in a room full of people. And I think this intentional energy that we bring into the room, that we are bringing to this panel, to everyone that is watching us, I think this is something that if you can practice, this is something that you should practice, because this has the power to change the day, for example, of the people that are watching us today. I hope this gives a little bit more of energy and empowerment to you in your future career. And this also has the capacity to shape your perceptions around the world. So I think that my main lesson as a teaching assistant was make sure you leave the right mark and you bring the right energy to the room. And I think this is something I'm also applying at my company, outside of this bubble that Google is, with my clients, with my partners, and so on. And finally, I think teaching is for sure, and it's proven to be the most effective way to learn something, because when you're explaining something to someone, you need to go through the process of first learning and understanding and then making it understandable. And I think that for sure I taught something to my students. And for those of you who are watching us, I really miss you. But something that I'm 100% sure is that I learned way more about myself. And for sure, this experience shaped my career forever.
Thank you, Mafalda.
Question to Tiago. Tiago, you have been on both sides of the world, so to say. You have interned for Banco of Portugal, Banco de Portugal, in the financial department, stability. In a more practical, I assume, in a more practical position, closer to to management and to managing a firm, and now you are in as you said before, in a more academic, research-based career path. Regarding soft skills, what do you think there are the major differences between both of these positions?
Jean, I think Bank of Portugal, it's the position that I had was not for sure a management position. That would be for Mr. Centeno and their colleagues on the board. I was a kind of what we call kind of a summer intern, of course, but more in a data analyst position. So in the sense that I was working with financial stability data, which was the department where I was, but it was a perspective, or it was good to gain a perspective of being more in a not in a management position, but seeing how. And it's hard to say for economists, and especially for those who work on the private sector, that Bank of Portugal is a management type of private institution, because it's a very peculiar institution in all those senses. But it was really nice to have a close thing to an atmosphere of at least an environment of a kind of a firm where you have colleagues that are working at the same projects, where you discuss, where you have lunch breaks together, or breaks in the middle of the afternoon or the morning, where you discuss news, and this type of skills that you gain from this. This type of position, that is something that is harder to get when you are working in a more research based, and this opposition, I think it's quite interesting to see where people value this type of when you have some interpersonal linkage with others. But again, I said that, and a research position, usually you traditionally tend to think more in a very hard skill based one. And of course, you can imagine you cannot be a good researcher in economics if you don't know statistics, right? If you don't know, it's hard, right? I guess. And I don't know any good researcher in economics that do not know that at least. And that is just an example. But in fact, what you observe, and I guess you can imagine, you can think, and of course I will not name anyone here, but you can think on the professors that you have, and the skills that the type of classes that they give. It's completely different when you talk in a professor with a more advanced age. Let's put things this way, when with people that basically finished their PhD a couple of years ago, or in a time frame of 10 years, and that I think most of the difference is because they tend to be more communicative, or tend to, especially this one, but and this is something that it's being more valued. And it's not only in the terms of when you think on the academic. Basically, you have two main things in the academic life: the research life, which tend to be a very individual life, but also the goal in the end is to present that. And you also see that in research seminars, people that finish their PhD more recently tend to give, on average, of course, tend to give seminars that are much more interesting in terms on how they present the results. And sometimes it can, so for instance, you can, of course, you don't have the counterfactual, but maybe if they are presenting the same thing, I think that the younger people will present things in a more interesting way. And exactly, I think that's the soft skills gaining some more relevance in the academic world, where you used to think that in a more art skill way. Yes, and that's basically kind of this trend that you observe. I think it's interesting to think, and I was thinking on that, and in the seminars that I've been attending in the last months, and you kind of observe that trend.
Thank you, Tiago. I will move on to Vitorino. Vitorino, you work at the Finance and Foreign Affairs Ministries in Portugal, and you are now working as a diplomat in the UN. So my question to you is there a distinction between the soft skills needed as economist or a diplomat in the Finance and Foreign Affairs Ministry in Portugal and the soft skills needed as a diplomat in the UN?
It's a very good question. I would say mostly no, but overall, I'd say so. First, I would say that topics are different. The topics that we are discussing. When I was working as an advisor to the Minister of Finance, obviously topics were more related to financing and the economy, so to the budget, to a lot of economic analysis and so on. And as a diplomat here in the UN, it's more diverse because you get topics on peace and security, on sustainable development, on human rights. So it's much more diverse. At the same time, so the methods, the working methods are different. Here in the UN, it's mostly about coordinating with EU colleagues, so with 27 member states, and then negotiating with the 193 members of the General Assembly of the United Nations. In Portugal, especially the Ministry of Finance, it was more about negotiating with members of government, basically, with political parties, and with other stakeholders, basically, with the companies or banks or European Commission, the IMF, and so on and so forth. So there are quite a lot of differences in the type of work, but I guess that the soft skills are more or less the same that are needed. All of these positions were very intense in terms of working hours, pressure and responsibility and everything. But as explained, topics are very diverse, and I think that this diversity is one of the key characteristics of my job that I really appreciate. So the ability of, in 5 years, I've had 5 totally different positions, and that's interesting. But the soft skills would be, maybe here I would have a more immersive negotiation experience, because I start my mornings with negotiations or with briefings, and I keep negotiating the whole week. So it can be huge topics or small topics, but it looks like an incubator of negotiation topics. It's very intense. So you learn a lot also through being at the UN. You learn a lot of soft skills here. And perhaps in the past, there was more of this political, flair. So trying to anticipate decision-making or how other parties would react to your policy making. So it was a different type of skills maybe, but overall, I would say the soft skills are more or less the same.
So now you're living in New York, and I have another question to you, that is, how has the lifestyle of New York, that is fast-paced, impacted you? Do you feel like you have tasted a little bit of that American dream?
Okay, that's a nice question as well. I think that the pandemic helped in this sense, because it's not as fast-paced as it used to be. So it's accelerating, I would say. This means that public transportation is not that crowded. There's no tourists, foreign tourists yet, but the city is it's rapidly evolving towards 100%. So last week, I think the mayor of New York announced that by July the 1st, New York will be 100% open without restrictions. So it's quite fast. And everybody that I know here in New York, so colleagues, friends, everybody has at least got their first dose of the vaccine. So it's evolving very, very fast. At the same time, what I would say is that New York, with a pandemic or without it, it's really an amazing city, and you really have a lot to do and to explore. restaurants, museums, parks, events. So it's really a fun city, an intense city. And despite not having that many in-person meetings, we have only quite a few per week. You have a lot of meetings by Zoom and by WebEx and by Teams. I don't want to exclude any platform, but you really have a lot of a lot of discussions every day, and you feel that your colleagues are always very stressed with a lot of deliverables and outcomes, and it's quite intense. But as soon as you start playing the game and understanding the rules of the game, you also start being the intense one who wants to to reach consensus and close negotiations and so on. So it's quite fun.
Thank you.
My question now is to Eduardo. Vitorino talked about work methods and the differences of those work methods in Portugal when compared to with foreign countries abroad. My question is, do the soft skills demanded at the UK, specifically at Amazon, as your experience, are totally different from the ones that are demanded here in Portugal? I know you have internship for Vodafone and Jerónimo Martins. And I have a second question. Since Amazon is a digital-based company, it has a great focus on that area. Do you think that the increase in digital predominance around the world, not only at e-commerce but on other fields, do you think that puts a disruptive force on the enterprise-client relationship? Do you think that's relevant? And if so, which soft skills do you think are important to overcome this obstacle, so to say?
Yeah, sure. So answering to your first question around the differences between what I've experienced working in Portugal versus in the UK, I think it's hard for me to answer to that, just because I think all the experiences I had in Portugal, they are not very comparable to the ones I've had at Amazon. Because like you said, in Vodafone or Jerónimo Martins, I did summer internships. So it will not be fair to compare 3 months versus, I've been at Amazon now for 3 years and a half. So it feels like a big portion of my life. And I think the biggest working experience I had in Portugal was being a teaching assistant, which I did for almost 2 years. So and again, I feel education and teaching is quite different from the corporate world. So I feel it's hard for me to compare what is valued in Portugal versus what is valued in the UK, just because I don't feel I have worked in a corporation for as long in Portugal for as long as I've worked for a corporation abroad. But what I would say is I don't feel there's a difference, to be fair. I think soft skills are soft skills, right? I'll be surprised if someone would say that a company in Portugal value a completely different set of skills versus a company in the UK. I think we live in a global world. I think a lot of the companies are not Portuguese companies, right? Jerónimo Martins is Vodafone, for example, is a British group. Amazon is an American corporation. So I feel because we work for companies that are highly global, internationalized, I feel the set of skills they value is pretty standard across the globe, because they are coming from the same leadership, the same people. So I think that's quite consistent. Like I said in the beginning, I definitely feel that, for example, there are things you might have to tweak. I gave the example of communication. I think what's considered effective communication in the UK might not be the same as in Portugal. I think well, at least in the UK, they value short sentences, straight to the point, very data driven. I think Amazon also values that quite a lot. I think Latin languages tend to be more rich, and you tend to expand more on your thoughts, and that's valued in Portugal, which is not as valued in another country. So I definitely feel there are cultural differences that will influence what you consider to be good communication, or what is the best way to influence people depending on the country you are. But I think if you look at the list of soft skills, they'll be the same. There are just different ways to go about it depending on what that company or that country value, and what is for them the standard of good and what is for them the standard of not good. As to your second question around I think it had to do with the fact that how digital is taking a hit in terms of how we do relationships with customers and partners, and probably how the pandemic has affected, my area. I think I actually think it's funny because I think it also brought a lot of good things. Like I think, I'll give you an example. Like we have every year a conference in the States called reInvent, and that's kind of a worldwide yearly conference in which we launch new products. So every time we launch a new service, will be in that conference. And normally it's an in-person conference, which is incredibly expensive, right? I go with my company, but for our customers, they'll have to pay for a ticket to go there, plus hotels, plus flights, etc. So it means that the reach and the audience of that conference is quite smaller. This year we did it virtually for the first time, which meant it was free. So anyone in the world could register and attend to it. And I thought it was quite impactful in a way to democratize technology, because you start having just this small group of executives being able to see firsthand our launches, but you had the same conference for everyone in the world for free. And I felt that was actually a good thing that came out of the pandemic. I think is also, in my role, I have oftentimes to speak with C-level people like CTOs or chief product officers, and it's very hard to find time to meet with them. I feel because now everyone is working from home, it's much more easier to fit in a 30 minutes call in their diary versus if I had to go to their office and meet them in person. So I feel technology has, to a certain extent, and maybe as a result of the pandemic, made people more accessible. And I think this event is a great example too. We're all in different countries. We'll probably be a hard group to get if you wanted us to go to Nova and do this in A14. Well, I'm talking about complete, so a bit old, but it will be hard for to get us there. But I think now you can get all of us in this virtual room because we're all, this is a new normal. So yeah, I feel that the digital transformation has actually been a good thing in this day and age, and I see more the benefits versus the negative.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo. Now we'll move on to our next topic, that is the interest in the labor market. And I will start by doing this question to Mafalda, that is, how important were the soft skills regarding job interviews, recruitment process, etc.?
Okay, so I will take this opportunity to take a point that Tiago mentioned about hard skills and soft skills, like the comparison between both. And I think this is specifically super relevant because when we are at Nova, we think that we're preparing ourselves to enter the job market. And then suddenly, I think when we enter the job market, we understand it's quite different from what we expected. So I think Nova gives us this amazing tool that is the hard skills we learn. We get really good at analytical side. We learn a lot about economics and management. We have the opportunity to get in touch with some companies. But in fact, the real world, when you're in a role, and I think everyone in this call can say the same, it's really different from what you expect. And that's why it's so important to have this experience and to experience different companies and to ask questions to people that are out there already. So I think soft skills and hard skills are really important because you also have this opportunity to develop your soft skills while you're still studying. And I think all the experiences you can have and that Nova gives you this opportunity. And I think this was one of the best things that Nova gave me, was this opportunity to experience different things, clubs, events, to meet people from different companies, different organizations. I remember once, we were talking about Banco de Portugal. I remember once going to have breakfast with Governador of Banco de Portugal. So Nova is constantly giving us this opportunity to develop our soft skills, beside the hard ones we develop through exams and midterms and studying. And I think that hard skills in your current roles are super role specific. So you learn by doing, and I think companies expect you to know some things, but they know you will learn this through the process. So don't be afraid of applying to a company if you don't know a specific skill or something that you think is required for that job, because companies know and expect you to grow during the process. But I think soft skills will help you to define your profile, meaning it will develop the traits you already have to create your brand. So who's Mafalda? What's the brand that I want to create for myself? And I think one super important tool, and the first contact we have with companies is our CV. I remember it was actually an alumni from Nova Skills Association that once told me this in London. I remember in a super small coffee near Deloitte in London, he told me, I think your CV needs to tell your story. And from that day onwards, I started looking at my CV as, what's the story that I want to write? Because by the end of the day, I'm the author of my story. So all the experience are aligned to something that I want to achieve in the long run, and having this visibility of where do I want to be in 5 years time. Maybe if you don't know it, you can start trying to understand how you want to write this story. So I think this is really important. And the soft skills that you develop on this side will take you to that position. I think that was critical for me to enter at Google when I applied to my full-time role. And I think this also helps to create a brand around you. And finally, I think it also helps you to understand if you have the fit with the company, because I think this is something really important. And we know this from economics, right? You have something to offer and the company is looking for something. And I think you have to find the right match between what you have to offer and what the company is looking for. And this is also your decision and your choice. You also have to understand if you feel comfortable. Like Eduardo was saying, when he entered the assessment at Amazon, he felt comfortable in his own shoes. I think this is something that we should also look for. If we have the right fit with the company, if we feel comfortable in our own skin, because at the end of the day, you spend 8 hours of your day working. So you better feel comfortable and happy in the place where you are. And I think this is, for me, the #1 reason why I get up every morning super happy, because I know I'm working with people that I like. I'm doing something that I love. And until I find this one thing that I think we are all looking for, I will not settle. And then I think this is the main message also for your soft skills. Don't settle. Try to learn new things, exposure yourself, and go out there and try new things. Because if there's something that does not change, is change and also growth. So yeah, I hope this answers your question, Madinish.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
So my question now is again to Eduardo. Eduardo, you have made a couple of internships. I think there were 4 in very different and diverse areas. What soft skills did the internships in which you participated help develop your soft skill set, so to say? How useful were they in your work position that you hold currently and in the labor market in a more general way?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I think during my during my internships, I had my first contact with the labor market, and that allowed me to understand what companies value, what is the right way to communicate, how to address people, how to pitch in your ideas, how to influence people. And I think, I'll be repeating myself, but it will be the same, the same soft skills I highlight today has, the ones that are part of my role were the same ones that I started developing throughout my internships. I think one thing that was very particular about Amazon and talking about kind of entering the job market was that all of our recruitment process, and I also interview quite a lot, and a lot of students from Nova for Amazon nowadays, and all of our recruitment process is based on our 14 leadership principles, which I'll not bother you with them. You can Google them, but there are 14 leadership principles, and that's kind of the pillars of our recruitment process. And if you look at them, they're all pretty much around soft skills, like have bias for action, or or even deliver results, which is about like it says, deliver results. A lot of the things you will be asked during the interviews, and I was asked about the interviews, how did I overcome a particular challenge? How did I interact with others? How did I got others to do certain things? How did I approach that situation? What would I have done differently? What did I learn from that? So if I think about the questions I ask now people, and I was asked when I was interviewing for Amazon, they were very much behavioral questions. They were about, they were not about, this equation I have to solve or a brain teaser. They were instead, about specific situations I had encountered during my life and how did I solve them, and what was my thinking process, and it was very much what I would consider soft skills. And I think that was what they were valuing at the time. They were valuing my thinking and how did I approach those different situations. And so going back to the internships, I think the internships gave me kind of the stories that I could then further explore at Amazon. So if I haven't done those internships, I wouldn't have faced certain problems. I wouldn't have had anything to talk about when I got to the interview at Amazon. So those internships gave me those first challenges that then gave me a story to tell when I was applying at Amazon. And again, all of my interview was about very specific situations from my past and what I had done about them. Because I think it was not so much to evaluate my potential, but it was to see if I had the right behavioral traits and if I had what it takes to then survive in that world. And I think one of the things that is very funny, also tying back to another question that you asked me, previously, which was around, kind of UK versus Portugal. One thing I found very interesting is that I don't know if you know that, that's why I'm mentioning, but like in the UK, I work with people that come from like psychology, history, sociology, politics, whereas in Portugal, I find, if you want to work in a bank, you need to have studied finance and economics or management, or if you want to work at, I don't know, name a company, you probably need to come from a management economics background. Whereas I feel, Mafalda probably knows the same it's the same in Ireland. Most of my colleagues don't come from economics or management. So I don't think what they're looking for is hard skills in the sense that, I really need to know the kinds model for my job at Amazon. I think they look more about, they look about the threats and how mature you are in your thinking, how much of a grown-up you are, the skills you have in terms of interpersonal skills and how you deal with others. And that's what makes a good hire. So I just found that an interesting data point, the fact that, in the UK, if you look at the workforce at Amazon, 30% will come from economics management, but then everyone else will come from engineering and, chemistry, sociology, psychology, history, etc. So I think that all ties together to reiterate your point, which is, soft skills were what made me secure this role and, what allowed me to be where I am today.
Thank you, Eduardo. Now I have a question for Tiago. Tiago, what conditions a job position have to fulfill in order to give you a sense of personal realization?
Right, very challenging question that, of course, I guess all of us eventually add, and we think, and I still think on that. Of course, I don't have always, we don't always have good days, and sometimes on bad days we think, why I'm doing this exactly, right? When you have a more challenging situation. But first of all, I guess I will just add something that Mafalda said, which is very important. And I realized that in a very late stage. So I did also enter in some private companies recruitment process. And it took me some time to realize that it's not me that I want to work in that company. It's really a kind of having a match. And it took me, I was in I will not name the company, but I was kind of in a late stage recruitment in an interview with the partners of that firm. And I kind of realized that, and I had passed all the previous stages, and it was one of the last stages. And I said, I'm not sure if I want to work here. It was fun to solve all these cases, and they were trying to convince me at the same time. But so it's really about creating the match and not exactly just, it's not simply a one way. But regarding your question, what conditions should a job have? And so I kind of know which conditions I kind of are irrelevant to me, and one of them, and I don't want to be I don't know, St. Francis here or whatever, or the Pope, but money, it was never kind of one of the things that I put as a priority. Of course, everyone wants to have the enough to live. That's, come on, that's I guess it's a common base that we all agree. But it was not something that you kind of that I kind of aspire. And so kind of an academic job, as you can suppose, it's not usually it's not the most well paid. And if I compare with colleagues that finished the master in economics at the same time, and they are working in consulting firms, especially, or even other type of firms, well, they are earning much more than I do now. And so that was never a thing that made me change. One thing that I really like, and I kind of always like, was to learn. And so I had to choose a job where I am constantly being pushed, and in the sense that I kind of need to learn something every day. And so at a certain point in the research life, you are not consuming, right? You are not a consumer of what others kind of create or discover, but you are a producer, and you are discovering in first-hand that on first-hand, and that was something that for me it was crucial to choose that. And sometimes when you are when I am in a bad day, and I kind of, in the end of the day, I think it is always good to me in the end of the day, of those type of days, thinking what really I learned on that day, and kind of, well, there is my motivation.
My question now is to Vitorino. Of course, Vitorino, you work as a diplomat at the UN, so I think, at least I assume, that this share of values and in a way, you're sharing your view of the world or our country ultimately, but yourself, your view of the world at the UN, and your set of values and Portugal's set of values. Do you think that's possible to do while maintaining a comfortable work-life balance and a good remuneration? Do you think that's possible?
Okay, many questions, I think, but so I get the question on values, I get the question on work-life balance, and I get on remuneration. But well, in terms of values, yes, so definitely, you need to. With the UN, it's quite easy to be aligned in terms of values, because these are universal values that every country shares. So it's only it's only about more than discussing these values, which is obviously important. The challenging part of our job is to translate these values into something meaningful, tangible, in practice, and then that's where you have different views on how to implement these values. So you'd have different views depending on the country you come from, depending on your personal background, and so on. But it's also true. I mean, this is very, lyrical maybe, but it's also because of this diversity that you get a lot of different solutions, and that you can move forward, and that's very interesting and very rewarding. In terms of the work-life balance, it's not an easy one. I think it's I've been having I could say a beginning of my career after Nova, which has been very intense, and every year more and more intense, which is probably not the best thing that I could aspire, but that's something that I need to to reconsider, maybe in the future, maybe now, because it's a lot of hours of work. It's a lot of hours of engaging with colleagues, but I also do that because I love it. So I'm able to be a diplomat here in the UN, to teach 2 or 3 different courses per semester, and it depends, to do a lot of civic work and engaging with organizations and causes, because I like it. And I think that, I obviously need time for myself. I need time to enjoy the city, to meet friends and so on. But as long as you keep comfortable, not in a comfort zone, but comfortable with your aspirations, with your goals as a professional, and you feel that you're being challenged and you like being challenged, which is my case, then you find time to, for this work-life balance. On remuneration, it's an interesting question, I would say, because when you stop studying and you basically start considering what's your professional life gonna be, one of the key questions is how much you're gonna make. That's not something that probably you thought about while studying, because you were not making any money, so it's you were doing a lot of volunteering work probably, and engaging in the internships, which are not particularly well paid, generally speaking. So you start thinking, okay, what type of career do I look for? How much do I want to earn in my life? Is there like an amount that would make me feel happy? Do I need to make 5,000 euros or dollars per month, 10,000? Where do I aspire in terms of remuneration? And I think I tend to share the views by Tiago, which is you obviously need some reasonable amount, which helps you survive, which is important. And I think in that regard, any of us at Nova have the right tools and the right background to live a comfortable and adequate financial life. So that shouldn't be scary. Now, if your ambition is to, I'm probably spending too much time talking about remuneration, but if your ambition is to make a lot of money, then obviously there are some careers that enable that more than others. It's always going to be difficult, I would say. But diplomatic career is not definitely one where you're going to become a billionaire. Far from that. I think we're all comfortable though, and I think it's a good career. But I would have easily chosen a career in banking or in private equity or something like that, if I'd like to to try to get as much money for my curriculum as I can. But yeah.
Now we are entering a different topic. Your time at Nova SBE. I think you were all, if not colleagues, you took your academic paths close in time span, close to each other. My first question is to Eduardo. Because I think you have presided over Nova Skills Association. How do you think that Nova academic clubs and the academic experience that you were a part of, in this case presiding over an academic club, shaped your expectations of the labor market and impacted yourself?
I think that's a great question. So definitely, like you said, I was president of Nova Skills Association. So of course, it's an organization dear at my heart. But I felt that experience, during my bachelor's, those 3 years of bachelor's, while I had different roles at Nova Skills, including heading the association, I felt that was probably one of the best things I've done. And if I'll go back in time, I'll tell myself, definitely do it. So I think you get a lot out of those groups versus what you get in classes, and with books. I think I expanded my network by a lot because I was able to meet, the alumni from Nova Skills. While I was there, worked at Google, worked at L'Oreal, worked at McKinsey. So they work at very well-known, established companies. Some of them, top employers that I was considering, applying for. So having friends and a network of people that work there allow me to understand what they do. And I feel this is, I feel it's interesting because I feel a lot of people go out to the job market and they still don't understand what people do. Like they'll hear, account manager and they'll not know what that means, or they'll hear, PhD student and they don't really know what you do in a PhD, or, yada, yada. So I feel having a network of people that already work help me understand, okay, what does a marketing manager do? What does a consultant do? I think Vitorino was talking about remuneration. You also get an idea of, how much they pay. So I feel it's almost like an incubator for the real world, but in a very protected way. So I made friendships with people that were slightly older than me, and so I could have a better understanding of, the different roles in companies, the different pays that come with different jobs, the different skills that are valued, the recruitment process, which it's very valuable information to understand what are the recruitment processes that different companies use. So I definitely feel that network and those relationships I built at Nova Skills and in those kind of experiences out of the class were extremely valued. And then also because I feel the problem in life in a lot of, and I think that's something you'll see in a lot of different moments, is always to get the first experience, right? It's always like the first. So for me to get at Amazon, I had to have other internships, other professional experience. For me to get those internships, I had to have something that I could then talk about in those moments. And so for me, when I was, I think my first internship was at Ronnie Martins. If I didn't have Nova Skills, again, I will not have anything to talk about there. I won't have any experience. So it also, it was having that first that first job, that first set of responsibilities, something I could brag about, something I could deliver results on, that helped me to then that opened doors for me. And it's the same nowadays. Nowadays, if I want to pivot my career into something different, you always need that kind of the first person that bets on you to be a people manager, or the first person that bets on you to make that to go to a different position than the ones you've held previously. So I think it's always having that first that can be a bit tricky. And Nova Skills for me, and or any other club experience, is kind of having that first contact with the real world, because well, a certain extent you simulate a lot of the experiences you will have in a real company in that kind of protected environment. So definitely I took a lot of learnings from it, and I took a lot of the network. So definitely being able to talk with people, being able to ask questions, being able to be a pain in the ass to a lot of people and annoy them until they'll explain me what they do, the different roles, the someone to bounce ideas from, was very useful. And I think nowadays, if I look at my mentors and the people I go to when I need advice, not all, but a lot of them came from Nova SBE or from Nova Skills. So there were people that I've that are slightly older than me that I encountered either at Nova SBE or Nova Skills that I now go to when I need something, or when I don't know what to do next. So I think that goes with you for the rest of your life. And I think having that mindset in every company, I think will help you, because you always need sponsors and advocates that will pay it forward and push you forward in your career. So kind of having that, building up your network as you go, will always be of value, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Now my question is to Tiago. Was there any experience which you disregarded and then later was valued in your professional path?
João, yeah, there was one. I was thinking on that, and it was so I was, and Vitorino was talking about that during our time at Nova. It's very common that students have spent they spend some time on volunteering activities, and there was one volunteering activity that I enrolled at Nova because we received emails, which, let me say the activity, which was peer tutoring. The peer tutoring activity that you basically, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's still on place or not, but it is okay. Basically, okay, Eduardo is saying that he also did. Amazing. Yeah, I guess, and it was something that I enrolled because we received an email from Edith asking for people that could give sessions of Calculus 1 on my second semester at Nova. So after just after I get done with Calculus 1, and I had a decent grade, so I enrolled, and it was a challenging thing because I have never had any type of experience, and I just thought as pure volunteering activity, and nothing kind of else. And then when I was doing the interview for TA, that was basically one of the main, the interview is quite short, but it was kind of the main topic that we were talking about that. So it was, I think it had some relevance on that in terms of a small experience. And then after the TA experience, which basically was one of the crucial thing to meet professors and start working also as a research assistant to professors, and that they eventually they are the ones that write your recommendation letters, which is the crucial thing to enter in a PhD. It's one of the crucial things. There are several other things, but this one, a good researcher, a good reference letter in the right place opens very good doors for the PhD. So as an example, I was TA of macro, as João said in the presentation in the beginning, for Pedro Brinca, and Pedro was, and then he was my master's thesis advisor as well, and so he was one of the ones that wrote the reference letter, and he did the PhD. Guess what? Here at Stockholm. So it was basically I don't know this, of course. I'm not totally sure on that because, of course, all these processes are quite confidential. But people here in the corridor still remember Pedro, and so I'm totally sure that was the key thing that opened the doors to this. So this is kind of a butterfly effect here now. But this was an activity that I just enrolled because, well, I have this email, I have time, so let's do it. And then it kind of was very helpful, I would say, for all this path. Maybe I could achieve this path from other way, but I don't know.
Thank you, Tiago. I have a question now for Mafalda. Did you have a role model that had a path that you want to pursue and inspired you?
I think this is an amazing question because I think in Portugal we don't give enough echo to role models and the importance of having role models in your career, in your life. And I was hearing this talk at Google the other day about the first women who commanded a mission to space. And actually, she was telling this story that when she was young, there was an astronaut coming from Russia that went to her high school and said, "I'm an astronaut and I'm actually a woman." And she went home and she said to her mom, "I want to become an astronaut, but more than that, I want to command a mission to space." And her mom answered, "Okay, that's fine. You can be whatever you want." And because she had this role model in her life, she became the first woman in the US who commanded the mission to space. So I will take this opportunity to echo a point that Eduardo mentioned that is exactly about building a strong network of people, of role models, of people you admire, of people who inspire you. I think this was for sure the best thing that Nova SBE gave me, one of the best things of my career, and also one of the best things of my life today. The people I have around me, and there's this TED Talk that explains exactly what's the success for living a healthy life, and exactly this, the people that you have around you. I'm lucky to have people like Eduardo, Vitorino, Tiago. I can reach out to. They're part of my network. People I can reach out to discuss the next move in my career. I was telling you, I did this with Eduardo. What should I do next? What should be my next project? People you can reach out to and invite just to have a coffee and discuss your life. We actually have coffee scheduled after this event. So I truly believe that the people we have around us in our personal professional life decide our future. That's why it's so important to have role models around you. They decide your conversations, they decide your habits, they decide your ambitions. And at the end of the day, I really think they decide your opportunities, as Tiago was saying. Because for me, building a strong network means building a network of people that would mention my name in a room full of opportunities. And I think this is an amazing quote, because I'm sure my mentor would mention my name in a room full of opportunities. I'm sure every single one in this panel would mention my name. And I think this is really important because I'm building a network of people I trust and that really inspire me, a network of role models. So I would say that if I could advise the students who are listening to us on something they should start doing today, is to build their network. Because this will determine, and I'm sure, how much you'll accomplish in the end. And above all, and most important, your willingness to get up in the morning, because these people inspire you. They give you energy to move forward and to continue and to take your career to the next level. So if you can do something now, start building your network. Reach out to people, ask for a virtual coffee. The worst case scenario is that they say no. And I'm sure people from Nova will always say yes. Maybe it's not yes today, but it's yes tomorrow. So you're in the right place to build this network. Nova is really good at doing this. So take the most out of this, because this is for sure something that will decide your future, your opportunities, and by the end of the day, your life. So this is something really important to have role models in your career. And I think Nova is the right place to do this.
Thank you, Mafalda. I have the same question to Victorino. Do you have, or did you have, a role model?
I think Mafalda said everything, but I can try to complement. I think it's important for each and every one of us to have role models, or at least, you know, inspiring causes. So, well, I guess that people whose path or whose work is inspiring, and this can be, you know, it could be Obama, it could be Greta, it can be, you know, anyone that you can imagine. It can be people you meet in your daily lives, but it's important to have these references, because it's when you identify who you want to be in your professional life, that you start having milestones or goals, and that you have some hope that despite some, you know, challenges that you may have in the present, at least you know where you want to have. And that's important. Myself, so I've met some of these inspiring people in my life, and I prefer to, besides speaking about, you know, people I never met, there's quite a few, and you know, many of my professors at Nova are inspiring to me, especially those I work with. So Professor Daniel Traça and Paulo Portas. I've worked with many amazing diplomats. I won't name all of them here, but and obviously at the Ministry of Finance, Mario Centeno. So there's a lot of you know, they can be leaders in their own way, or leaders in your areas. But these are people that that have taught you many things, and help you, you know, be inspired about a specific goal. You don't need to be a huge fan of a specific role model. That's also important. You do not want to replicate the exact career path of someone, which can be actually hard. But it's nice to have a lot of different references, people you can turn to as well. And yes, and this is all about, you know, as Mafalda was saying, meeting a lot of people, engaging in lots of initiatives, so that you understand different opportunities, different experiences, and that's the way you can be inspired for your own future.
Thank you, Victorino. Eduardo, did you have a role model?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'll be short, because I think I'll echo what others said. I think when I think about role models, I think, you know, not necessarily about you know, some of the names that worked on here, but kind of real life people. I remember there were professors in my life that, you know, really had a mark on me, and, you know, and from high school to Nova, and that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to then become a teaching assistant, because I'm a huge believer in education as a changer to anyone's conditions and faith. So I think investing in education is always one of the best things we can do to change someone's life. But I definitely, when I think about role models, I definitely think about like teachers that that really had a mark on me because of the knowledge they had on the subject, because of the way they were able to inspire a class, the way they were able to, share their knowledge with others and make a difference in, at least in my life at that moment. I also remember, one of the people I met at Nova Skills that interviewed me ended up becoming sort of a role model to me, and he was a perfectly normal guy in the sense of, didn't save a life, didn't stop a train moving, didn't jump out of a plane, nothing like heroic or like that. But I just think like it was someone I could look up to and feel like, oh, I want to be like that. I want to talk like that. I want to have that gravitas. I want to, I want to structure my thinking like that. I want to be able to look at situations from a different angle. And I think now looking back, I think one of the things I at least I felt a lot when I joined Nova, Nova SBE and Nova Skills was, I don't know if you heard this expression of big fish, small pond. I felt everyone at Nova, they were kind of big fish, small pond students at their high schools, because we're always, the best students in our high schools. We were really good students since, I don't know, we were 5 probably. We were, kind of overachievers in our lives. And you get to Nova, it's a pool just made of, great, super intelligent people. And I had like huge big fish small pond syndrome when I got in Nova, right? Like I felt like everyone is amazing and I'm not as amazing as others are, which is, it's foolish, and you'll get that over your head. But in the beginning, I think everyone feels like that. And I felt that João, which was that, that person that interviewed me, was able to kind of for a while remove that feeling of, big fish, small pond for me. And I felt, if I at least can focus on be a bit like him, and take on his coaching, I'll feel like I'm kind of getting closer to my goal. And I remember in a course I know we had to write something about our about like I don't remember the title. It was kind of like a normal hero, which will be like you need to write about a hero from your day-to-day life. I ended up writing about him, and again, he was a super normal person. He was someone that had a career path, and he came from a humble background and got to a good position. The way he behaved, his intelligence, the way he was very good at persuading people. He founded the club at Nova. He had a lot of traits that I admired and I aspired to be. So he ended up being kind of like a short-term role model. And I kind of and then again, then I had teachers later on in my master's. Now I work. I definitely I look at my current manager in this role has definitely a role model, which is something really good to be able to say. So I felt all my role models were like real life people that I encountered in different moments of my life, and I just felt they had traits and skills that I wanted to be able to mimicate, and that's it.
Thank you, Eduardo. Now I have the same question to Tiago.
All right, I totally agree what Eduardo said. My role models are real life people that eventually, well, they are all real life people, I guess. No one has a Mickey Mouse as the role model. I don't know. Well, whatever. And but the point is that people that eventually we kind of cross paths in our professional way. That's basically what we are talking. Of course, I also have role models for my personal life in a more strict sense, but for my professional life, I think as an undergrad, I think most of them were professors, and as an undergrad student, there were some TAs that kind of that I really admired the path that they were taking. I remember my TA of all macros that I had, which was Rui Mascarenhas, and also then actually he took a path in a research path, and he's doing a PhD in New York, in Columbia University. And also Eduardo Costa, which was quite close. Both of them were quite close age, and then eventually I was lucky to be TA at the same time as Eduardo, and gain a lot from him as well. Then I guess as a master's student, it's usually when it becomes easier to connect and interact with professors and not. Professors, non-TAs, to be more explicit on this, and then of course I have to mention Pedro Brinca here again. Of course, he was, as my master thesis advisor, he took his role, but then also other professors that I worked as an RA, as Francesco Franco or José Tavares, that they not that you want to be exactly like them, but that you gain a lot from them, and you see the way of, at least for me, the way on how they approach problems and how they think on problems, and sometimes where they see problems miles away. I remember this, I was working with Francesco and in a project, and I think since week 4 or week 5 of that project, he was mentioning, yeah, this thing will not work because, and then he point out the reason for that. And we were a team of 3 people, three researchers, me and Luis Teles Moraes, and we were not understanding that, and we were kind of continue on that path. And then we eventually discovered why it didn't work. But like 2 or 3 weeks after working on that, and this way of looking to things and immediately understand that this thing will not work, it's what I gained most from all these TAs and in a later stage from professors as well.
Well, thank you, Tiago. We are reaching the final of our roundtable, and I have a final question for the 4 of you. That is, given the knowledge and experience that you accumulated throughout these years, what advice would you give to the younger you? And what advice would you give to someone that is studying and finishing their studies? Tiago, you speak before, but you can go.
Okay, thank you, Inês. Yeah, that's, well, I guess a very interesting question to think about. And sometimes I kind of drop in conversations with friends and colleagues, I kind of drop things that, hey, if I was, again, 19 years old, I would do this, right? And I was thinking that in a more novel life, I think I would have probably joined Nova Economics Club, which I think it is a flaw in my CV as a future economist. Wasn't being not part of the economics club at Nova. But okay, I guess they also kind of improved a long time, and they were not as a relevant club as they are now. I think I would say that. Then I also would start to try to create more connections with professors, non-TAs again, since my first years, which was something that you are always kind of that, not afraid, but you always have that distance, right? They are teaching to an auditorium of 200 people. It's always very challenging to approach them and saying something relevant, right? And I kind of try to do that during office hours, but it's always very related with classes, and that would be something that I would say to Tiago with 18 years old. Then I think that is, well, and I think it's fine. So I have a friend that she did a gap year, and she says that she enjoyed the gap year, but it was a really challenging to deal with that. And then when she wrote from the gap year, she was like, it was not the best experience of my life, and I don't know why. And I kind of have that same feeling with my Erasmus program. So everyone kind of describes the Erasmus program as the best thing in the world, and when they arrive after the Erasmus, it was amazing. And for me, it was not the biggest experience of my life. And I want to say this, which I think it's fine for those who are listening to us, to not have been that type of experience. And that, I think it was, of course, my fault, that I didn't enjoy all the international experience, and that would something that nowadays and now I'm living again in an international experience and with a total different perspective. So kind of that failure helped me a lot on approaching this new international experience. But I would kind of enjoy that in a different way as well.
Okay, thanks, Tiago. Now, Mafalda, it's your turn.
I'll try to keep it short and sweet because we're already over time. But I just want to keep it as, by the end of my calls, I always have this habit of summing up with next steps and follow-ups. So if I could leave people that are watching us with next steps and follow-ups, I would say the first one, focus on the big picture. Because when you're studying and under the pressure of midterms and exams, you forget to put things into perspective. And I think it's really important. It's not a bad grade that's going to decide your career. So put things into perspective, because it will help you to get this sense of more big picture in long term. Then the second one, live life, enjoy, because I think this is an amazing grade at Nova. When people say that those are the best years of our lives, I always say that the best is yet to come. But putting things into perspective, I really think that the years I spent at Nova were extraordinary. So really enjoy every second of it, and do not settle. I think this is something that I usually say: do not settle. Try to find something that you really love, because life is really short. If we think about it, so you better spend your days doing things that you love, or at least trying to find things that you love. And then the final one that we mentioned here, and I think it's crucial, is start today building your network, because I really think this will influence the opportunities you're going to have and the life you're going to live. So this would be the next steps and the follow-ups I would leave for everyone that is watching us.
Thank you, Mafalda. Eduardo?
Yeah, sure. So I think first, in terms of, I'll give advice to younger folks. I'll start by saying, take advantage of the time you have at Nova to build or to get complementary knowledge of other topics that you're passionate about, and you might not end up studying them. I think sometimes we might be, we tend to get boxed, like, you are the economic student, or, you are the geologist, whatever it is your path. And I think we are much more than that, right? Like, a side note on myself, I really love cinema. And so I did a part-time course in London last year in cinema, in directing and producing movies. And that has nothing to do with my role. That was just something that brought me a lot of passion, because I learned a lot of of hard skills about an area that I loved. But that then ended up tying up with my current role, because now I work in the media entertainment industry within Amazon. So and I think there were like a few other experiences like that I had in my career. Like, I moved to Spain and I didn't know how to speak Spanish. So I also, I felt, I could have used that time at Nova to have learned more languages. So I think what I'm trying to say is, if you have other passions and other things that give you joy and pleasure, I don't know, it might be sewing, it might be movies, like Thiago was mentioning, Nova Economics Club. Just take time to really, do those. I think when you're a student, you have so much time compared to when you have a work or more flexibility, I would say. So really take that time to do things you're passionate about, and they might not be strictly relate to your role now, or you might not see a connection now, but eventually they might connect, or you might find a way to connect them. So do more of the things you love, and if you're doing management, you're passionate about an area, you can do a part-time course or a night course, or you can get it onto a club, learn a language on Duolingo, whatever, but don't stop nurturing your skills and your passions, even though if they are not going to be your bread maker. And I had a mentor that once told me something funny. She said, we're having this discussion, she said, you millennials are interesting. And I asked her why, and she just told me, we were very close, so that's why she kind of talked to me in that way. But just saying, I feel sometimes we're a bit spoiled, because you feel like all the jobs you have and everything you do has to have a purpose. Whereas, for me, I can have a job that gives me enough money so I can do the things I love on my free time. I don't think that needs to be your philosophy necessarily. But what I'm trying to say is, find ways to to do more of your what you like and follow your passions. And that ties to my second advice, which is, think about the life you want to live. And I said earlier on about trade-offs. But yeah, think about the life you want to live. If you really want to be, in really posh rooftops, having very expensive meals, maybe you really need to have a job that pays really well. If you really want to, feel that you're doing something to help the country and the world you live in, maybe you need a job that gives you purpose, and maybe working for an American giant will not be it. You know what I mean? So you need to think about a life you want to live, and think about the trade-offs you are willing to to make, and ask the tough questions. I think when you talk with people that are already working, they'll always give you the rainbow version of their lives. Especially in events like this, we always talk about like what I love the most of Google, what I love the most at Amazon, what I love the most at the UN, yada yada. Ask them what they don't like. Ask them, how much money they make, how many hours they work, what is the worst part about their job? Because I think those tough questions will also be very telling in terms of, would that something that would work for me? And I would lastly just do a +1 on Tiago's Erasmus experience. I also didn't have the best Erasmus experience, and I think it's because I chose poorly my destination and I didn't equate the right things at the time. So I'll give you I always like to give examples, just otherwise I'm just speaking theoretically. But I didn't want to do like big European cities like London, Paris, or Madrid, because I felt like I've already visited them, and because they are kind of mainstream, I've knew them, been there. It will not be exotic. But if I'll go back, I'll actually do them, because those are the places you're likely going to live. If I think about, I ended up living in Madrid and London, so maybe if I had lived in those cities before, I would have friends there already, know the places better, know the cost of living. So I think you can use Erasmus as a bit of like a trial of places you would see yourself living, and kind of trial them. So I'll tell to younger Eduardo to be a bit more due diligent in the way I chose my exchange destination. And like Tiago, I didn't have the best experience. That was on me. I could have picked better. But I think, if you're out there and you also didn't have the best experience, or if you're about to choose where to go, think carefully about the criteria you use, because you can make the most out of it if you choose with the right mindset.
Thank you, Eduardo. Last but not least, Vitorino.
Thank you very much. I think, yes, so trying to make it systematic. So I guess that a very important advice is to apply to the diplomatic career and to the UN. You should all do that. And it's an important decision that you can take in your life, and one that definitely will make you happy. Now for real, I think three advices. One, generally speaking, is to take time to participate in as many events, as many clubs, Nova Skills, Nova Debate Club. I'm doing the promo now for you, and all the initiatives that that you're invited to engage. Try once, try twice. See if it's something that inspires you or not. I've tried, I don't know, dozens of volunteering initiatives until I found the ones that I love the most. I tried different clubs at Nova. I founded some. They went out after a couple of weeks. I mean, it's all part of the experience. Go in Erasmus. I think that's an important tip as well. And I think you can learn a lot from that experience. You can do internships as well. That's interesting, and reach out to people. As my father was saying, it's important to build your network, of course, and to engage with other people, to learn about their experiences and about their tips. But as Tiago was mentioning as well, and it was funny because of that email and that proposal that he got, and that ended up inspiring him to for future choices. And that's really about it. It's about saying you do not need to say yes to everything that comes out. Not like the movie that I think there's a movie with Jim Carrey where he makes himself say yes to every single email he receives. But at the same time, it's interesting to think that you do not want to lose opportunities, and above all, you want to explore the world. And I think saying yes is an important advice. The second one would be to it's okay not to know exactly what's your dream job, and to get your dream job at the first try. It's okay to fail. I obviously need to say that, but I mean, I started studying engineering. I quit after a year. I've after that, so during that year in engineering, I understood, okay, it's not really the career path that I want for my life. I started attending different classes from colleagues who were also starting university, and I tried to open a bit my mind to other opportunities. It's totally okay if you're not there yet, and if you do not know exactly what you want to become or where you want to be, but it's important to think about that. It's important to digest these experiences and learn where you can improve in your life. It's important to have these role models, as my father was eloquently explaining, and think about these positions, think about these causes you want to uphold, and take some time to consider where you see yourself in the future, even if it's super complicated to get there. I remember that in the first year at Nova, so the career services, or someone at Nova asked each and every one of us where you want to be in 10 years, 15 years, 20, 50 years. I don't remember. And I said, I want to become Secretary General of the United Nations. It's obviously impossible, especially because we have a Portuguese one, so it's going to take a while until we get all nationalities on board. But at least it helped me, maybe 10 years later, or I don't know how many years I've passed since, but to work now at the UN, and that's something that I feel, it's something that I aspired. It's not the end of my career, of course, but that's something that it's a milestone that I wanted to complete. And the third and last recommendation would maybe be to apply to positions abroad. And Eduardo explained well how important it was. It's relatively easy. It's not easy, but it's relatively easy to apply to positions in Portugal or in your home country. Because you know better the people, you understand better how, nobody knows what the Bank of Portugal is, but at least you met someone from there. Nobody knows what you do in a traineeship about leadership and marketing and strategy in a big company, but at least you know people there. But it's very important that you open up your mind to go abroad, and it's not that difficult. It's not that impossible. One thing that we see here at the UN level is that sometimes Portuguese youth and Portuguese students see the UN as something that is far away. It's something for the US students, or it's something for the Swedish youth. I'm not going to be the one speaking up at the UN. I'm just from Portugal or something like that. So there's a lot of humility in our aspirations, and I think you should try to go against this trend and consider applying to different parts of the world. You'll always have people who can help you. You'll always have Portuguese or Nova SBE alumni helping you, and it's important that you raise your international exposure as a professional, and it will only bring you a lot of good things in the end. And that's it for me.
So thank you all. I think we're reaching the end of this debate. I would just like to point out that I think it was a very interesting debate. I think it was a very actual current topic of the utmost importance, and I think it was very productive. So since we are doing since we are over time now, I would just like to thank all the speakers for accepting our invitations. I would just, in name of the moderators, I would like to thank Nova Skills and Nova Debate for this opportunity to moderate this important and adequate and important debate. And I would like to thank all the listeners for listening, and I would like to know if they had a good time or not. So in name of Nova Debate, in name of Nova Skills, thank you to all the speakers, thank you to all the listeners.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.